Go.
Hey y'all, if you're here, it's because you care about Black students and reducing racial equity gaps. Welcome to your community. My name is Tiffany Lanois, and I'm a sociology professor at West LA College. And for the past 2 years, I've been a co-lead for the Culturally Responsive Pedagogy Practices Grant.
And I'm Jennifer Ortiz. I'm a professor in the English department, and I've also co-led this work. This grant was a 2-year grant awarded by the state of California. Essentially, we designed a program to ensure faculty had the tools and the knowledge of how they can use data to improve their on their equity gaps with Black students. And so, what prompted this work today is the grant. The 2-year grant, essentially, we were able to mentor faculty coaches, and faculty coaches were responsible for communicating with their assigned departments. They coached other faculty who were also invested in interested in closing racial equity gaps with Black students on how to use their own data, their course data, analyze their course data, and then implement a equity-minded teaching practice and then look at their data again and see if that teaching practice made a difference. And so we had a series of successes, including, different workshops. We had a Black student panel to kick off each year for the 2-year grant. And then also a couple of webinars, one in the fall and one in the spring, that went over the different ways in which we can start thinking about equity to help Black students succeed in our courses.
Yeah, so that's what we did. And that's really what prompted this course. Like, we've worked really hard over
Yeah.
the past 2 years, and our faculty have worked really hard on our campus. But we know that not every faculty member was able to participate. And as part of a whole district, we wanted to create something that other people could participate in as well. So we wanted to make this available to faculty who weren't able to participate in the grant in and of itself, and use our experience and the things that we learned through the process of implementing the grant to spread the word, right? And spread the information.
And so we wanted to continue on the momentum and on the wins of the grant. Just this spring, we completed our last webinar, which was on Black Joy, and we talked about creating cross-cultural curriculum and essentially how do we celebrate the, innovations and the accomplishments of Black people and embed that into our curriculum and into our teaching practices. And so with this course, we will provide you with all of those resources, the resources and tools, the toolbox that we created those past 2 years. But this is essentially what you can anticipate. So for the first module of the course, we're going to be focusing on the structural consequences of anti-Blackness and racism in institutions of higher learning. And so we're looking at the role of how race plays out in our institutions and in the way that we can see that in within our own classrooms and our teaching practices, and specifically what we can do to address those institutional barriers for Black students.
Yeah, and then in module 2, you look at data. We decided to use the grant to be data focused and data perpetuated. And so we decided to have workshops for faculty to teach them how to access their equity data. First of all, what is equity data, right? How do you use it? How do you use it to try to close racial equity gaps? And so that's what module 2 is about. And then in module 3, we get into the actual practices and different tools that you can use to address the equity gaps that you notice in your classes. For this grant, we were focused on looking at Black success rates and the gaps that we see for Black students. And so the practices and tools that we talk about in module 3 are specifically for increasing Black student success in your courses.
And then in module 4, what you'll have is an opportunity to self-audit, to take inventory of how you understand the consequences and the historical context of anti-Blackness in institutions of higher learning, whether you can recognize it within your own institutions and in your own teaching practices. You'll also be able to evaluate your own course. It'll include a rubric where you could do like a self-assessment, a self-evaluation, and it also give you an idea on how you can move forward. Because as a reminder, equity work, there is no no end goal. It is work, it's continual work, it's lifelong work. And so this course, just think about it as a stepping stone to get you to that right path in that right direction if what you want to do is close racial equity gaps for Black students. And then finally, on Module 5, we're going to be providing you a toolbox with the different webinars that we've put together during these 2 years of the grant. We're also including the Black student roundtables, one for each year of the grant, where they actually give us feedback and also rubber stamp some of the practices that we covered in our webinars that they actually tell us that worked for them and for their success in their courses. So all those resources will be there for you on Module 5.
Yeah, so we're so excited that you're here because, again, if you're watching this, it's because you care, right? And we've cared. And so we're so happy to bring to you what we've learned by focusing on increasing Black student success for the last 2 years at West LA College. And we're excited for you to see what we've presented for you. So, attack it module by module. It's self-paced, so you can take your time. And like Jennifer said, this is lifelong work, right? So this is not something you're going to figure out in one semester in one class. This is something that you want to think about and incorporate slowly over time.
Correct. All right. Well, enjoy. We've put this, it's been a labor of love, and, we hope that you get something out of it. And, again, thank you for being here and caring about Black students.